everyone. Welcome to No Room for Comfort, and I am your host, Jesse Waterhouse. I want to thank everyone for being here. I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving holiday. I know that I did. Ate way too much food. But I am streaming here live on YouTube and Twitch. When this podcast ends, I will be publishing this to Spotify, and you'll see clips on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram, and all that stuff. So please like, subscribe, and share. I do have a Discord chat open if anyone would want to join and give their feedback into that chat as well. If you have any questions about this episode or previous episodes, or suggestions for future topics, please email me at noroomforcomfortpodcast@gmail.com. If you're interested in being a call-in guest to this show, again, email noroomforcomfortpodcast@gmail.com, and I would love to have that conversation. So No Room for Comfort is a podcast about personal growth, self-confidence, self-worth, and any positive aspects related to life. So if that pertains to you, then you are in the right place. And on today's episode, going off the cuff today, I am going to talk about Stoicism. Stoicism is something that I adopted in my life because I've been through eras of my life where, frankly, emotions have gotten the better of me. I've been in places where, where emotions have been irrationalized through me, and I felt at one point in my life that was not the way to live. I've read books about Stoicism. I've read so many things about Stoicism. Quotes from Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, people that you'll learn about in this episode, that I've adopted because, it helped me live a better life. It helped me live a more positive life. It helped me live a life where I was free from worrying about things that were out of my control. And it has been amazing for me. Because in the topic of Stoicism, they'll teach you that not wealth, not power, not all of these things that people will perceive in desire as far as what makes people happy are actually things that make people happy. What could make a person happy is realizing what is in their control and what is not within their control. So I have show notes here tonight that is going to display a lot of the things that I'm going to talk about. So what is Stoicism? Stoicism is an ancient Greek and Roman philosophy that focuses on a virtuous life. What does that mean? The core principles depend on developing wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance within your life. So you see situations and realize them as they are and adjusting them accordingly to the core principles of Stoicism. And that goes back to what I was saying. That goes back to teaching that a good life is achieved through developing a realization of knowing what is within your control and what is not within your control. And that's a very important thing because, I've witnessed a lot of things and I've felt a lot of things within myself where I've gotten myself into a situation where I worried about things that were out of my control. I sit there and I worry about things that are out of my control. What does that do for me? If you think about it, if you actually reflect on it, what does that do for you if you're constantly worrying about things that are out of your control? Right? Now, I'll give an example. So, there are Stoics out there who would tell you something like there are 2 parts of your day that are within your control. 2 times within your day that are in your control. The first one is the start of your day. The second one is the end of your day. Now think about it. Now say you're married, say you have kids, right? But you wake up in the morning. You wake up early in the morning before anyone else gets up. And you go downstairs to your downstairs bathroom. And you're going to take a shower before you head on to work. So you jump in the shower. And the time that you're in the shower and you're getting ready for work, what do you have? Well, you have your time. You don't have the opinions of others at your work. You don't have the actions or the negativity of others, customers, clients, patients, no matter what it is. They are not there in that singularity of a room as you're taking a shower. You could lock the door of your bathroom while you're taking a shower, and your kids could be pounding on the door for you. And you still have the control of mindfulness, of self-awareness, to think about how your day is going to unfold ahead of you. It's a very powerful thing. You can think to yourself that you're going to have a great day, that you're going to achieve things, that you're going to achieve your goals, whatever goals you set out before you. It's all going to happen for you. And then you have the end of your day. You're sitting bedside. Your husband or your wife have already fallen asleep, or they're about to fall asleep, and you know you're about to fall asleep. And you keep a notebook next to you, beside your bed. This could be a very important thing for a lot of people in their lives, to keep a notebook next to them, beside them, by their bed. And you pick it up. And what is different, aside from the notebook next to your bed, than the morning affirmation in the shower? Well, it's this. You can write down what you're grateful for. What you're grateful for that day. What you're grateful for the future. And you can also write what your day is going to look like tomorrow. You can write down short-term goals, long-term goals. But you have that moment of peace right in front of you that you can write down and live in it. Have self-awareness. Almost as if a meditation, right? And it gives it to you. And it's almost as if the universe gives those two moments to you, the beginning and the end. But the middle of it, that's not so much in your control. Your drive to work, your commute. Somebody cuts you off. You're not in control of that. The weather is shit. You have to drive slower. You have to keep your distance. You're not in control of that. You get to work. Somebody else is having a bad start to their day. So they rant about the bad start to their day. You're not in control of that. Customer or a client comes in, and let's say you work in a parts warehouse where their part did not come in, but they showed up anyway and their part did not come in. So they're upset about that. You're not in control of that. What you are in control of, though, is how you react. What you are in control of is what you can do. You are not in control of the emotions or the opinions or the negativity of others. That does not reside within you. So what is there? In those situations, what is there? What there is your ability to react in a way to where you have self-realization and you're able to solve problems based on that self-realization. Okay, I'm sorry that did not show up for you. The best that I can do, because I need to keep you going, I apologize that it wasn't there for you. Best that I could do is get it here the next day. I know that's not what you want to hear, but that's the way it is. And what Stoicism teaches is, if somebody cusses you out for it, that you realize that their negative reaction is going to be imperfect, but your reaction is to accept it. You accept it because they are imperfect, and you know. And what does it take to do that without flying off the handle? A lot of people will see that and they don't want to fly off the handle because it's like, this motherfucker, why are they doing this to me? Why do they treat me like this? It's not that they're treating you like that. It's just you are a byproduct of their bad day. And you cannot control their bad day because, let's face it, in this modern world, in this modern time, Stoicism is practically dead. Most people do not practice it. A lot of people don't even know what the fuck it is. So they're not going to bring it to the table. And what you need to know about yourself is how you can handle it. And that's all that you're going to be in control of. So if they bring that to you, come with resolve. Because at the end of the day, you're going to thank yourself for it. You're not going to have to live the consequences of being shitty. Because even if you bow down to them, what's that going to change? It's not going to change anything. If you bark up to them and tell them that they're a total piece of shit for acting the way they are, well, it may feel good for a little bit, and you may face the consequences of it. You will face the consequences of it. But it's not going to make you feel any better in the end, because you're going to realize that they had an imperfect reaction because they are imperfect, because they are human. But if you try and you set forth respect towards it, they're going to respect you back. I've had instances. Let me give an example. So my day job is a couple of things. And one of those things is to provide support for Caterpillar Equipment Company. They are a heavy construction equipment company. And what I do is make sure that people have the right parts for their equipment at the right time. And I was facing a situation where we had a client that came in who does a heavy amount of business, and they have a lot of equipment, and they came in and it was as simple as they needed a top window for an excavator of theirs. And this is right before our Midwest winter. So it was about to get super cold. Well, they called in the morning about a window seal coming in for it. I said, okay, yes, the window seal is here. Didn't look into it because I was like, okay, has a window seal. And it was for an excavator. And he said, that's a bit strange because the window seal for my excavator, he says, I don't see where the seal is. Like, it's broken glass, but I don't see where the seal is. Like, okay, well, come in and we'll straighten it out. And he came in, and he drove for over an hour. But he came in. He said, I'm seeing this seal, and I just don't think it's right. And he's like, this is a glass number. This is what I've got. I'll take it, but, this is the last nice day. He said it's going to get in the teens. It's going to get below zero. I can't use the fucking window glue if there is window glue. And I said, hold up. Let me look at it. And I put in the number for the glass that was sitting there on the counter that somebody else had ordered. And I put the window glass number in, and he came over and he looked at the diagram, and he said, how the F would anyone ever figure that is the window glass on the top side? And I looked at the diagram and I knew it immediately. And I said, I know, because you're looking for the door glass on the top, and this is the window glass up front, and this is the door. What you're getting is the door glass on the top. What's on the counter is the door glass on the top. And the window glass up front is what you're needing. I said, I don't understand how this happened, but I can get you the right thing. I can get it. He's like, I'm closer to St. Cloud. Can you get it there? I said, yep, I can get it there, but it'll be tomorrow morning. So, okay, good. So in the end, he was more calmed down about it. But the thing is him being that fired up, I could have had the reaction, even though I had nothing to do with it. It was someone else's thing. I took accountability for it. But even though it was somebody else's thing, I could have freaked out about him freaking out at me and been a piece of shit towards him. But what would that have gotten me? And beforehand, like every time I would see like a minuscule amount of disrespect towards me, I wouldn't handle it. I used to be a different person than I am today. Trust me. I would get me in trouble, and I'm not who that person was anymore, but things have changed. But I got him what he needed, blah, 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 blah. And the thing is reacting that way comes with experience and wisdom and stoicism. So, focusing on what is in your control and what is not. And luckily, he had stoicism of his own. He realized what was not in his control, and he was like, okay, well, I'll wait till I can get it. So, to dive further into stoicism, we can look at what the core principles of stoicism are. And the first one is the dichotomy of control. And that's exactly what I've been talking about. What is in your control and what is not. So let me give another example. So let's say you lose your job because of the financial state that your company is in. What you can control is what you do next. Having the resilience to see your strengths in the skills that you have is what you're in control of, and you can change the course of your life, and it could open new doors to better things for you. But what you can't control is the loss of your job itself. Yes, you may have done things to prevent poor financial state of your company, but with all avail, they end up getting rid of you. Well, then it's up to you to find what you need to do next. To having the resilience and having the resolve to get on your own 2 feet and finding some place to go. Not only that, but you can't look at that as a negative thing. You have to look at that as a positive thing. You can find yourself in a situation like that and think, oh, doom and gloom. I'm going to lose my house. I'm going to lose my family. I'm going to lose this. Don't dwell on that shit. You can get off your ass and you can find yourself a better opportunity. You'll find yourself a better employer. You think about your strengths. You reflect on them and you go and you follow them and you follow your goals and your dreams. Maybe this is an opportunity for you to change course completely. Maybe this is an offering for you to find a place where you go and you find something that you really enjoy doing and you make good money doing it. And your bills are covered. Everything's covered. And now you love what you do. Maybe it's taken you out of a place where you have absolutely hated and dwelled on the place you were living in. And now everything is peachy because it opened up a new door. You have to look at the positive. You have to realize the positive. You have to realize what is out of your control, which is they got rid of me. That's out of your control. But you also have to reflect on the things that are in your control. What is in your control? What's in your control is to realizing your strengths, realizing your skills, finding new occupation and opportunity, and seeking opportunity, finding it and excelling at it. And that is something I feel that everybody is capable of. You look hard enough and it will happen. So when things don't work out, don't fret. Now, let's give an instance where things don't work out, you lose your job, and shit's on the wire and you can't find something. It happens. Well, fuck it. You downsize. You get to where you need to be. You do find something, because this happened to my dad. He couldn't find something for a while. The housing market crashed. Shit went to hell. He lost his house. He came to me and he said, son, you're going to have to find a place to live because you know what? I'm not making it. Okay, Dad. Found a place to live. He eventually found a place to live. Well, what also eventually happened was he found his opportunity. He found a place to work. He built himself up, bought his dream home, and he's now living in it. He realized what was out of his control, circumvented, came around, and got exactly what he visioned, because he visioned it, and he visioned it strong enough. Let's go back to the dichotomy of control. What's in your control and what is not. Let me give you an example of my life. So, my dichotomy of control, probably one of the most significant forms of it, was when I lost my mom to cancer. I can't control what happened with my mom, but I can control how I reacted to it. My relationship with my mom was not the best. My relationship with my mom was something like of us almost being strangers for a while. I'm not going to dive too deep into how that became or why that was, but it is the truth. But my mom was diagnosed with small cell carcinoma. I spent 2 years with my mom in stages of cancer, almost trying to get to know her. But there was a problem with that. With that small cell carcinoma came lymphatic cancer spread. And it spread to her brain, and she ended up having 23 tumors in her brain. And she tried to have conversations with me about the past with 23 tumors in her brain killing her. That was strange. That was, do I know if this is you or do I know if this is not you? Like what? It was a guess. I don't know. She changed. Even what I knew of her absolutely changed. And it was tough. But all of that was still out of my control. And then she passed away, and then came her funeral. And what came with her funeral? Well, you would think her family, right? You would think my dad, her ex-husband's family. You would think people close to me at her funeral. Nope. I got to her funeral, and I felt like a stranger. I knew nobody there. I stood at the welcome mat greeting people into the church, and I could not mention anybody by name. I sat through a funeral progression, could not name a single pallbearer, because when she left when I was young, I spent 7 years of my life without seeing her. And after she left and died, she had developed a new family. When she developed a new family, I did not know such new family, but I was to be there and watch as they carried her down the aisle, not knowing who a single person was. How would most people react? They might react irrational. They might act out of anger. They might act out of sadness. But I kept it within and realized that her choices were out of my control. Her cancer was out of my control. The only thing that was within my control was my emotions and how I would act. And I held on to them. And I act with stoicism. That was the biggest moment in regard to stoicism probably in my entire fucking life. Was it hard? Hell yes, it was hard. But it's something you learn to accept. Second principle of stoicism is virtue is the only good. The Stoics believe that virtues of wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance are the only true good. So what they would think is that external things like wealth, health, and reputation are just all are used for either good or ill will. So to them, they don't determine somebody's happiness. So like I said, you can't control the health aspect of things, except what you can do, you can exercise and you can eat right? But wealth, that's an external thing. That doesn't determine your happiness. There's plenty of wealthy people who are unhappy. Another thing that the Stoics believed is living in accordance with nature. And that had two meanings. It meant living within society, within a rational and social human nature, and living with harmony in nature in order of how the cosmos or how the universe saw you. So there was society and human nature, and there was also physical nature, like the order of the universe. And you try to abide by them. And then the last is reason, and that has to do with how the universe sees things within reason, how it goes in order, and you believe that. And it helps you let go of things. So you're like, this is out of my control. This is within the reason of the universe. I'm just going to let it go by. And that's basically the core principles of Stoicism. So Stoicism is of an ancient practice. So, there's reason to believe that a lot of people don't abide by that anymore. And I feel like a lot of people don't abide by that anymore. I feel, especially in this country, a very wealthy country where everyone's in a hurry and everyone's in a hurry to achieve and to build a legacy. And Stoicism's by the wayside. And it is because, if you're looking to get the next promotion to where you're going to get the next biggest raise, you're going to worry about the opinion of the person who gives it to you. And you're going to worry about the future project. And you're going to try hard on the things that are out of your control. You're going to try and fix like a coworker's problem or a co-associate's problem in order to look good in front of the person who's going to give you a raise. They're either going to do it or they're going to not. And that is the reason or the nature of society. They either like you or they don't. And you have to realize that. But people are out of that awareness. And they go home feeling stressed. They go home getting that promotion. It doesn't make them feel any better. They're still stressed because they're worried about what they're going to have to do in their new position to even keep it in the first place. And they're fucking stuck in this rat race that doesn't even make sense. And that's where Stoicism is a lost thing in our society. So if you want to boil it down, we kind of need to look at the practical applications of Stoicism in the first place. And the first one is to accept what happens. Accept inevitable events at a deep level. Stop trying to resist them. Recognize that negative reactions are based on like our own opinions about those events. Practice self-awareness. Be aware of your judgments. Be aware of your opinions and your emotions. Realize that people's actions are imperfect and they're not all intended to offend you. We've all had that where we've been somewhere where somebody almost acts disrespectful. But you don't ever stop to think, well, maybe this person was having a bad day and they didn't intend to direct that towards me. Well, there's definitely a possibility that they absolutely did have a bad day and they don't intend to be that way towards you. I guarantee you, man, there's people out there that will do that and they'll go home and they'll feel shitty and they're like, why the fuck was I like that to that person? By the time I was done doing that to that person, they still treated me with kindness. And to be able to do that and treat somebody with kindness through that and realize that their intentions are not to offend you, shit, that teaches them something. It teaches them like, oh man, I need to be better. You don't ever think that because you're like, I want to fucking get revenge on this person. I want to make them feel like shit too, which is a natural reaction, but it goes against wisdom. So make it count. And then focus on the present. Don't let desires for future pleasures, don't let those desires take over you. Mentally prepare for negative events, and act virtuous upon that. Because if you're always focused on the future, and the thing about focusing on the future is, if you're focused on the future, you're always trying to see an outcome that doesn't end up being the exact outcome. If you're seeing what's in front of you now, it can better guide you for what the future lies ahead. So that's definitely something to think about in regards to Stoicism. Yeah, no. And the next things that we can, I've had moments of that too. I've had moments where I've thought about the future and it's like doom and gloom for me. And I think about it and I'm like, what the fuck? Why am I doing this to myself? Because no matter the situation, I'll think about it and it sounds bad at the time and then it comes forth and I'm like, that wasn't that bad at all. At pretty much every single time. And that's exactly the way it comes up. And how to negate it is to kind of think of the benefits that Stoicism will have. Because, if you think about it, if you practice Stoicism, you'll have resilience. It'll help you face adversity and establish fortitude with whatever you're thinking. And if you do that, you're not going to have the negative reactions to these things and think about the doom and gloom. If you have the emotional regulation of it, it'll help you control emotional responses, by understanding that external things are out of your control. They're not necessarily inherently good or bad. You'll have increased focus if you think about it that way. It'll encourage a clearer sense of purpose, leading to greater focus, greater productivity in your life. And you'll have self-command, which will provide like self-mastery or self-control and all the things that you are currently trying to focus on. And the last thing I want to talk about in Stoicism today are like the big Stoics in history. And the first one is Marcus Aurelius. And he was the Roman emperor, between 161 and 180 CE. And he was the best known Stoic leader in history. And he had a lot of personal notes that he didn't intend for them to be public, but he ended up becoming like the godfather of meditation because those notes were found. And he provided a lot of timeless lessons on leadership, self-discipline, and basically adversity. And you have Epictetus. He was interesting. He was born into slavery, and he eventually gained his freedom and became an influential teacher in philosophy. He emphasized on the dichotomy of control and focused solely on what's within our power and what's not. And then lastly, the third big Stoic is Seneca the Younger. He was a prominent statesman. He was a wealthy advisor to a very controversial emperor, Nero, and he was a noted playwright. He made letters noting on how to manage wealth, power, and challenges of living a virtuous life in a corrupt world. And because he did that, he ended up, I can dig into it later, but he had a very crazy choice to make. But the last things I want to note are very important quotes by these three Stoics. And Marcus Aurelius, the first one was, "The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts." That's very true, because no matter what you do or no matter what you say or go through in life, if you have positive thoughts about things, it's going to lead you to better things in life. And for Epictetus, men are disturbed not by things, but by the views that they take them. And that's true too, because it's not by the material object that you have, but the way that you perceive them that's going to make you feel disturbed. And lastly, we suffer more in imagination than in reality in Seneca. Well, yeah, we develop things in our mind that make us feel worse about things than they really are. So there's a lot to learn about Stoicism, but I'm glad everyone could make it here. Again, thank you for joining No Room for Comfort. Please find my episodes on Spotify. Check me out on Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. I'm glad everyone could join me here. But that's all for tonight, and everybody have a great night. And again, thank you. I love you all, and have a good night.